Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving headfirst into something that feels, well, more vital than ever. Persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before you picture, slick sales tactics or manipulation, let's maybe reframe this a bit.
Right.
In a world awash in information, and honestly increasingly defined by these deep divisions, how do we actually truly change minds?
Yeah. How do we build those bridges instead of just more walls?
Exactly. Our journey today is guided by some fascinating insights from Anand Giridharadas' book, The Persuaders, Winning Hearts and Minds in a Divided Age. This deep dive will explore how some, frankly, extraordinary individuals are tackling this huge challenge.
And the book's prologue, it really sets a powerful stage. It describes what it calls the war on persuasion, this sort of deliberate effort to sow discord, to fracture society. And what's really striking is how it digs into strategies that directly challenge what's become almost a pervasive write-off culture.
That tendency to just dismiss anyone who disagrees.
Yeah,
Call them unreachable.
precisely. So we'll be uncovering some surprising facts and hopefully some actionable insights for you. Insights that might just change how you think about moving forward in our, well, often fractured world.
Absolutely. So our mission today is clear.
Yeah.
Let's unpack why genuine persuasion has become so incredibly hard,
Yeah.
why it's more crucial than ever, and what surprisingly effective strategies people are actually using, on the ground to bridge divides and bring others along.
Okay, let's get into it.
So the book opens with a really stark, almost chilling example of how persuasion's been weaponized for divisive ends. The Internet Research Agency, or IRA, in St. Petersburg, Russia.
Right. This company widely known to be operating basically for Russian intelligence.
And what's laid out is that the IRA's main mission wasn't necessarily like electing a specific candidate.
No, it was much broader. It was designed to foment political unrest, to further widen existing divisions in the U.S. public, and crucially, to decrease our faith and trust in institutions, the ones that help maintain a strong democracy.
And what's fascinating, or maybe scary, is the emphasis on how they weren't dropping something totally alien onto America.
Right. They were like fertilizing behaviors that were already flourishing here. It's like that they found a crack and just poured poison into it.
Yeah, exactly. And their tactics were incredibly systematic. The analysis tells us hundreds of workers toiled in 12-hour shifts, managing multiple fake accounts, producing an astonishing 50 posts a day on Twitter.
50 posts a day. And the boss, this guy Oleg, apparently wanted the troll farm to be a place where, and this is chilling, true artists of discourse toxification could unleash their talent.
Wow. Artists of discourse toxification. That sounds like a supervillain's lair.
It really does. And Lyudmila Savchuk, a Russian journalist who actually went undercover there to expose it, she described the psychological toll. She said, the realization that you can invent any fact, then watch it absolutely synchronized with the media outlets as one massive information outflow and spread worldwide, that absolutely breaks your psyche.
Oh, I can only imagine. And the reach was just massive, right?
Yeah. Huge. The IRA's post got 76 million engagements on Facebook, 183 million likes on Instagram, and they sent more than 10 million tweets. Just staggering numbers.
It really is mind-boggling. The book points to two specific troll examples.
Yeah.
Crystal One Johnson, who leaned left, and Jenna Abrams leaning right.
And what's critical here, the analysis notes, is that both accounts didn't just spread anger, they weaponized disgust.
Disgust. That's interesting. Why disgust?
Well, the thinking is that anger can actually drive people to the polls, motivate action. But disgust, according to analysts quoted, drives countries apart.
Wow. So it's about fracturing the social fabric itself, not just getting people fired up.
Exactly. A truly chilling distinction, isn't it? Crystal One tweeted things like KKK was terrorizing us decades before hashtag ISIS appeared, while Jenna Abrams asked if glitter armpits is a thing now. Hashtag feminism is awful.
Both designed to create that revulsion, that alienation.
Yes. And this brings us to the broader problem the book identifies, this ascendant political culture, fueled by the inflammatory incentives of social media and these cynical manipulations. This whole culture has led so many people to grow alienated from the very idea that, you change things by changing minds, by persuading.
It's what the book calls the great write-off.
The great write-off, yeah. The assumption that differences are just unbridgeable, people are too entrenched, don't even bother trying.
So, okay, what does this all mean for us? Against this backdrop, this deliberate division, this writing people off, the book introduces us to a different kind of persuader.
People trying another way, refusing to give up on finding some shared ground.
One such figure is Linda Sarsour, a prominent civil rights activist.
Yeah.
The book highlights how she dissented from the Great Write-Off.
Right. She pushed for real inclusivity within movements. Like with the Women's March, she prodded organizers to specifically include Muslim women. Even though she had her own skepticism about some leaders, she saw the progress possible by engaging.
And she also insisted on refusing corporate sponsors, right? Like Coke and Walmart.
Yeah, asking if they were genuinely interested in changing their ways on things like women's pay or public health, or just, slapping their name on a good cause.
That's a really powerful stance. It challenges the easy route.
It absolutely does. It wasn't just symbolic, it was about genuine inclusion and accountability. And then there's Loretta Ross, a reproductive justice activist, and her, incredibly audacious decision to actually work with incarcerated rapists.
Wow. Okay, tell us about that.
Well, it came after a prisoner, William Fuller, sought help, and it raised this really unsettling question from her colleagues. Better bandages.
Meaning, are we just patching up victims if we don't address the root cause?
Exactly. Didn't want to be used, obviously, so she drafted these really strict guidelines. Absolutely no help with their jail time, only feminist literature. It was a huge gamble, really, on the possibility of changing minds in what seems like the unlikeliest of places.
That takes incredible bravery, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it led to a framework.
Yes, her experience really shaped her nuanced circles of influence theory. It's like a practical guide for building coalitions, a roadmap for who to engage with and how.
Okay, break that down for us.
So first you have your 90%ers. They mostly agree with you, but they get fixated on that last 10% difference.
Yeah.
And the trap is trying to force them to be 100%.
Right, the purity trap.
Exactly. Then the 75%ers. They're near allies, often criticized by the 90s for, finding common cause. Then maybe the most interesting, the 50%ers. Like her own parents, she said. They hold core values but could genuinely lean either way.
So how do you approach them?
It's about finding those shared values, looking for openings. Like her father's healthcare struggles genuinely shifted his view on healthcare as a human right. Find the connection.
Makes sense. And the last groups?
The 25%ers and 0%ers, she starkly calls them fascists. And here, the goal isn't really persuasion. It's about overpowering their harmful agendas.
That framework really shifts how you think about strategy, doesn't it? It's not one size fits all.
Not at all. And she has such a powerful core belief driving this. She told the author, you can't change other people.
Oh.
You can help people. You can expose people to different information and help them learn if you do so with love.
With love, that's key.
Absolutely. She gave an example from her work, pushing doctors to understand why a patient might be a so-called bad contraceptor instead of just judging them. Dig deeper into the human experience.
That insight, love, and understanding is prerequisites for learning that feels transformative.
It really is. And it leads us nicely to Alicia Garza, a co-creator of Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
After the Trayvon Martin verdict, she challenged the fatalism she saw. She specifically told people, stop saying we are not surprised. Stop giving up on Black life.
She pushed back against that resignation.
Yes. She posted, Black people, I love you, I love us, our lives matter. That phrase became a rallying cry.
And her core idea, explored in the book, is about expanding political circles.
Exactly. Not making them smaller and smaller, or just cliques, she says very clearly. We can keep talking to each other and becoming a narrower and narrower slice, or we can actually fight for power. Movements cannot be cliques.
And she distinguishes between activists and organizers.
Critically so. An activist, she says, raises awareness. But an organizer recruits people who don't know what they don't know. They build a base by weaving together people, even those with problematic ideas.
Okay, weaving them together. How?
Her point is profound. The only way you get people to a different place is by walking with them. Shaming or ignoring people, she argues, it just doesn't work. It reinforces where they already are.
Walking with them. That phrase really resonates. We see echoes of that elsewhere, too.
Definitely. Think about the evolution of figures like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC.
Right. Sanders initially focused almost purely on structural issues.
Yeah.
Avoided personal stories.
Famously so for years. But later, the book points out, he learned to connect people's personal pain to those systemic issues, effectively telling them, it's not your fault, the system did this.
That shift from blame to systemic understanding, that's a persuasive act in itself.
It is, and AOC's background, as the book describes it, kind of embodies this scrattling worlds idea growing up between the Bronx and wealthier suburbs.
And her mentor, Ernesto Nieto.
Yeah, he taught her to balance being, quote, intransigent about what is right with calling people gently in. Nietzsche's philosophy was deep. You had to know yourself to change others. You had to be interested in their inner lives.
Knowing yourself to change others.
Ah.
Wow. This blend leads to what the book calls inclusionary populism that AOC embraces.
Explain that a bit more.
It's combining roughly Bernie's message of them, the critique of power, with Obama's message of us, that broad we the people call for unity and hope.
So structural critique plus unity and hope.
Yes, plus personal storytelling and a relatable authenticity. It's a complex mix. And she uses this inside-outside game.
Right. Being a righteous and radical thorn in the side of her colleagues inside Congress, while also kind of amusingly offering them free Twitter classes.
Huh. Okay.
And her use of clapbacks on social media, it's not just self-defense. The book argues she uses them strategically to dismantle some of the frames of misogyny, classism, racism.
So using the platform to reframe the attacks.
Exactly. And the book notes how she harnessed everything that was wrong with the media to hijack it, to push goals like climate change action forward.
That's a really clever, almost jujitsu-like approach. But she faces criticism too, even from the left.
Oh, definitely. The book mentions figures like Jimmy Dore and his Force the Vote campaign. There's a segment of the left that, as AOC herself observes, seems to associate moral purity with losing.
Seeing compromise or strategy as selling out.
Kind of. Her response is pretty blunt. If your whole identity is based on how marginal you are, you will always be losing. She stresses the goal has to be to win, really want to win.
Winning requires more than just purity. It requires strategy.
Precisely. Which brings us nicely to zooming out again, looking at strategic messaging on a broader scale.
And Anand Shankar-Osorio, the political messaging consultant.
Exactly. She has some really counterintuitive takes. She argues that turnout is persuasion.
Turn as persuasion. How so?
Well, she contends that the choir's where the trouble starts. Meaning, if your base, your choir, isn't singing in harmony, if they aren't clear and unified, the message won't reach the congregation, the persuadables.
Ah, okay. So internal coherence is key to external reach.
Yes. And she criticizes what she sees as the left's problem fixation. Her line is memorable. Americans got 99 problems and they don't want yours.
Ah, okay, fair point. So what's the alternative?
Instead of just listing harms, she advises painting a vivid picture of positive future outcomes, like, say, clean, safe air to breathe and water to drink, instead of the more technical mitigating climate change. Focus on the desired future.
Make it tangible, aspirational.
Exactly. And her crucial rule is, whose conversation is it? Don't debate on your opponent's terms.
Like the who's better for the economy trap.
Right. Don't just answer that. Pivot to terrain that's favorable to your side, like what is best for people. Reclaim those contested values like freedom and family that the right has often dominated.
Don't cede the language.
Never. She even proposes this specific structure, the call-out sandwich.
Okay, I'm intrigued. A sandwich.
You start with a universal call-in, appealing to shared values. Then you call out the specific obstructors or systems causing the problem, and you end with another call-in, a call to collective action towards that better future.
Call in, call out, call in. Got it. A structured way to connect, critique, and mobilize.
Precisely. And her work on the Race-Class Narrative Action Project yielded a key insight for building multiracial coalitions.
Which was?
You must talk explicitly about race, don't avoid it, but frame racism as something opportunistic politicians exploit to distract people from shared economic issues that affect everyone.
So name the division tactic itself.
Yes. She calls it intellectual vaccination. You warn people about the divide and conquer tactics before they get fully infected by the lies.
Intellectual vaccination.
I got
that. Ties into the next challenge, right? Disinformation, like QAnon.
Absolutely. And the book introduces Diane Benscoter, who has a unique perspective as a former cult member turned deprogrammer.
What's her take?
She argues that the cult problem isn't just a collection of individual family tragedies. It's a collective problem that needs a public health response, almost like anti-smoking campaigns.
A public health approach to cults and extreme beliefs. That's a novel idea.
It is. She envisions democratizing deprogramming, making help more accessible through things like educational videos that play on a very basic human desire, the desire not to be conned. Also support groups, maybe like Al-Anon for families of cult members and practical help for those trying to leave. There's a huge need, she says.
Making de-radicalization resources more widespread.
Yeah. And along similar lines, thinking about inoculation, we have John Cook, a cognitive scientist.
Okay, what's his angle?
He champions inoculation theory for fighting disinformation more broadly. His idea is, instead of just debunking every single fake fact, which is exhausting.
And often ineffective.
Right. Instead, teach people the tactics disinformers use, how to spot fake experts, how to recognize cherry-picking data, identifying logical fallacies.
So teach the techniques of manipulation.
Exactly. He believes this creates an umbrella of protection that works across different topics. He even developed a game called Cranky Uncle to teach these FLICC denial techniques.
FLICC.
Yeah, it stands for spotting things like fake experts, logical fallacies, impossible expectations, cherry-picking, and conspiracy theories. It's about recognizing the playbook of misinformation.
Learning the playbook. That makes so much sense. You see the pattern, not just the instance.
Precisely. And what's fascinating is how all these threads, empathy, storytelling, challenging assumptions, inoculation, really come together in the practice of deep canvassing.
Right. As practiced by groups like LUCJ in Arizona, which the book highlights.
Yes, a prime example. And it's contrasted sharply with traditional shallow canvassing.
Which is mostly just about IDing your voters and getting them out, right? Quick
Yeah.
interactions.
Exactly. Deep canvassing is fundamentally different. It's about sparing maybe 30 minutes per door, aiming to genuinely change minds, or at least open them, not just confirm existing votes.
30 minutes, that's a huge time investment per person.
It is. And it's built on empathy, curiosity, non-judgment.
So how does it actually work? What are the steps?
Okay, so first, the canvasser gauges initial support, maybe on a 1 to 10 scale. Then, crucially, they ask about the person's personal connections to the issue. Get them talking about their life.
Making it personal, not abstract.
Right. Then, perspective taking. Asking something like, has anyone ever helped you through challenges? Getting them to reflect on empathy they've received.
Activating their own experiences of connection.
Exactly. And only then does the canvasser share their own relevant experiences. Like Cesar Torres, an undocumented immigrant, sharing his DACA story, the constant fees, the fingerprinting. It creates a human connection.
That vulnerability must be powerful. And facts come later.
Much later. Facts and refutation, that's like step 7. It only comes after that rapport is built, after stories are shared.
So the person feels heard, respected, cared for before their views are challenged.
Precisely. It's about earning the right to have that harder conversation. This whole process is designed to cultivate cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance. The discomfort of holding conflicting ideas.
Yeah. The book suggests most people, even someone with a partisan sign on their lawn, are often 60-40 around most things. They toggle between competing views.
They're not monolithic.
Not at all. The goal of deep canvassing isn't to force a flip, but to help them wrestle with that internal dissonance, to help them make meaning of their own complicated feelings and values.
Guiding them to reconcile things within themselves, that's subtle.
It is, and the examples are really striking. You see someone like Lily, who was hostile, didn't change, but then Kyle, a Native American man who immediately connected his own community struggles to immigrants.
Same issue, totally different internal connection.
Right, or Matthew, who launches into a diatribe, versus Raymond, a veteran who connects his military service to the idea of open borders, calling himself an American patriot for that reason.
Wow. It shows how wildly different that meaning-making process can be, even with similar starting points. It depends on how they process it, how they're listened to.
Absolutely. Which brings us back to that powerful mantra from George Gall, who championed deep canvassing born from his own life. People change.
People change. That's the foundational belief, isn't it?
It's an act of faith, really, recognizing that behind the opposition, there's probably some unmet human needs on the other end. This work, he says, is designed to help change people and help people shake off any limiting beliefs.
What an incredible deep dive this has been. We started seeing how deep this war on persuasion runs.
Yeah, from those Russian trolls deliberately sowing division.
To our own political culture's tendency to just write off anyone who disagrees, it really challenges the whole idea of finding common ground.
But then we explored these powerful counter-strategies. Individuals like Linda Sarsour and Loretta Ross challenging assumptions, reaching across divides you wouldn't expect.
Movements led by figures like Alicia Garza and AOC, expanding their reach by blending, confrontation with invitation.
And experts like Annette Schenker Osorio on messaging, Diane Ben-Scoter on tackling extreme beliefs, John Cook on inoculation, offering these sophisticated tools.
And the recurring key idea, the thread weaving through all of this.
It's that belief in the possibility of change.
Right. That genuine persuasion isn't just about winning an argument in the moment. It's about cultivating empathy.
Understanding where people truly are, their values, their pain, their often conflicting feelings.
And having the patience, the commitment to walk with them, as Alicia Garza put it, while they make sense of this complex world.
Yeah, remembering that people's beliefs are usually complicated, messy, not just black and white. And real change, lasting change, it seems to happen through that connection, not through force or shaming.
It's a reminder, really, that beneath the surface, beneath the fixed opinions and political labels we see, so many people are grappling with that dissonance, searching for a kind of home for their minds, a way to make sense of it all.
And the challenge, but also the opportunity, is to help provide that home in a way that fosters connection and constructive change, not just reinforces the divides we already have.
So maybe something to consider as you go about your day, where in your own life or in the bigger conversations happening around you, might you find an opportunity to walk with someone?
To maybe cultivate their dissonance gently, help them explore it, and to remember that core belief George Gohl holds on to. People change.
Yeah, think about it. How might applying even one of these ideas, empathy, perspective taking, sharing your own story, maybe even just listening differently, how might that help bridge a divide you thought was completely unbridgeable?